Tony, just to kind of get you up on what we were talking about, Matt was kind of given a bit of an overview of the planned future for Rock Island Trail, and I think what you were talking about, you had just mentioned, Matt, that the next trailhead is going to be at Hamblin Road. And about how far is that? So if you were to go from Jefferson, where it is right now, where it terminates right now, about how much of an extension, like a mile or 2 miles, is that to Hamblin Road?
Yeah, so it should be about 1.5 miles, almost on the nose. So
Okay.
we should get about a mile and a half of additional trail with a trailhead.
Mm-hmm.
And that'll get you to Hamblin Road. And this is what we're considering sort of phase one of connecting to the Katy Trail. We're calling that the Greenwood Connector. Between Jefferson Street and where the Katy Trail currently ends in Pleasant Hill is about 8 miles as the crow flies.
Mm-hmm.
So connecting that 8 mile gap is not as easy as the development of this current project that we just finished. And that's because we don't have the railroad right of way.
Okay.
When we purchased our railroad right of way, that portion between Greenwood and Pleasant Hill was not available for purchase, and that it is what it is. But that means we have to find a new way to connect a trail between the southern end of our corridor to Pleasant Hill, and it's particularly challenging because we want a trail that is accessible for all people, all ages and abilities. We want the ability for, a grandma to be able to take the kids out on a bike ride on the trail and feel safe, separated from traffic.
Right.
And just everything you just mentioned, right? A safe place to recreate, to get exercise, to just be outside and experience it with the people you love. So it's a challenging project, but one that we continue to work toward. We're hoping to do a planning exercise over the course of the next couple of years that would sort of vet that route. And we hope to have the city of Greenwood sort of adopt that plan once it's been vetted, shared with the community. There's been a chance for public input, things like that, so that it's kind of on the books, right? And right. So that going forward, if there's changes in leadership or different things happen, that plan is there for when the time comes that funding is available, or an opportunity presents itself to get the project going, that we're ready to go.
Can I ask a quick question, Matt?
Please.
I don't know if it's relevant or not, but I think some time ago we heard that the Little Valley Sewer District was planning to do some sort of an improvement ran along what might connect those two. Has that borne any fruit or anything?
Not really, unfortunately. I've actually not been able to really connect with those folks over there. And I'm not really sure why. It's typically, there's not a great crossover between utility easements and trail easements for a few reasons.
It's a lot different, huh?
Yeah. And, a lot of it has to do with the location of the easements, because, an underground utility sort of is different than having a trail, that is more, visible. There's people that use it, that sort of thing. So there's sort of a different political calculus that goes into it. But it is something that we have discussed in the past, and I did reach out, but I've not been able to connect with them about that. And I think it's still worth exploring, and I think that we should exhaust all possibilities. Absolutely.
When we talk about a connector, could a connector even be just a dedicated lane of traffic, or what do we consider a connector, I guess?
Yeah, that's a great question. I actually with some former coworkers in my department who have moved on to other opportunities, we actually put in a build grant in 2018 for the Greenwood Connector, and we just kind of were throwing some ideas out there and seeing what stuck. But one of the things that we proposed in that build grant was to actually use a protected on-street cycle lane, which an example in the region is in Kansas City on Gillum. They've got a protected bike lane. It kind of looks like that. So if we went through the city of Greenwood and were unable to identify a new right-of-way, sort of like untouched ground, right, that we would develop into a trail, one thing that we could do is use the streets, because Greenwood had, they control those streets. And if we could utilize a little bit of their roadway right of way, we could actually physically protect it. And so it would provide a similar sort of feeling as a trail does. It gives you that physical separation from automobiles that so many people like when it comes to trails, because it provides safety, right?
Yeah.
And then for pedestrians, those same streets have sidewalks. And so you'd kind of have that combination of the on-street sort of cycle track application or protected bike lane, and then you'd have the sidewalk next to it that could provide facilities for both pedestrians and cyclists.
So Matt,
So yes.
when you describe that, just for clarification for people like me who don't maybe know the difference, when you say like a protected bike lane, I think of so an example that I think of is the bike loop around Longview Lake. They have a bike lane there, and it is a painted section. So there's a painted 3-foot gap between the main road and the cycling lane. Would it be something along the lines like that, where you have like a painted gap, or is it actually like a physical barrier that you would be talking about in that case?
If I had my way, it would be a physical protection that would be a substantial, barrier. So I'm thinking like a concrete barrier.
Okay.
And there's a couple of reasons. There's different applications, right? Different types of bike lanes that exist all over the world, and they exist where they do for different reasons. Width of the streets is one. The volume of traffic is another. There's all sorts of things that we look at when we apply different bike lanes to certain streets.
Mm-hmm.
But in a more narrow street, like a residential street, for example, which we'd have in Greenwood, we wouldn't have, for example, a 3-foot painted buffer. It wouldn't fit there.
Right.
So we would need to kind of narrow that buffer down. And to do that, we would use, either Jersey barriers, which is a typical highway sort of separator. You see them in the middle of highways. Okay. It's like a 3-foot concrete barrier. Or you might use parking blocks.
So concrete triangles, kind of.
That's right. Yeah. Yep, that's right. Or you might use parking blocks, or you might use something else. Giving that actual physical protection, I think, gives people the feeling of safety, that gives them the security to get out there and ride their bike, where people who are nervous about cars and stuff, that the just paint barrier doesn't really provide that.
Right. That makes sense. Thanks for explaining it, because I don't know the difference necessarily when you explain that. So explaining that's helpful, because then it can help me kind of imagine in my mind, or maybe help other people kind of understand specifically what it is that you're talking about.
And I think it's important to note that, there is existing data and studies out there that show that providing a physical barrier between the cars and the cyclists, it actually increases the usage of those bike lanes. Yeah. So by providing that physical barrier, we're going to see more usage.
Yeah, no, I would just anecdotally, I'd completely agree with that, because as a cyclist, I mean, when I don't have a barrier between me and other people on the road, that sound of oncoming traffic, the road noise, always grabs my attention. But if I have something between me, or if I'm on a separated path, I don't pay nearly as much attention to that road noise, because it's just not something I need to be concerned about. So having a barrier, that way people they're not concerned about it. They don't need to think about it. They can enjoy being on that path a lot more for that reason.
Exactly.
I guess I would just say that I don't know that anybody really cares what my opinion is, but my opinion is I would love to see I would love to see us get a right of way so that we can just make it like the rest of the trail system, and people can go on about their business and walk their dogs and ride their bikes and do their thing. I guess I just was thinking about that aspect of it, and sometimes we can't have everything we want, but we need to do something. But I haven't surrendered yet. I'm still hopeful that.
Nope. Nor
Good.
am I.
Good.
So,
No, we agree, and that's why we wanted to do some good planning around, as Matt's saying, what does each segment look like? Going from Lee Summit to Greenwood, how do we get through Greenwood? Once we're on 150, how does that look with a protected bike lane or a corridor adjacent to it? And then further south to the Cass County line. So all of these decisions and all this engineering will come out in this planning that we're hoping to do over the next few years.
And to your point, Brian, how much farther south do you have to go to get to Cass County? Because you're pretty close to the Cass County line in Greenwood, aren't you, at that point?
Yeah, we are. Yes, what would you say, Matt? Maybe 6 miles? There's 6 miles within Jackson County before you would get to the Cass line, or less?
I think it's about a 50-50 split. So I think we've got about 4 miles within Jackson County.
Okay.
And I'm just sort of guesstimating. But yeah, I do believe it's about 50-50.
Okay. So how do you guys work that out? Is that kind of like the way you were talking about doing a co-op with Lee Summit with the Rock Island Trail, or are you doing like a co-op with Missouri or Cass County to like find a place where those two are going to connect, where your work is going to hit their work, and then that gets the trail all the way down there? Because if it's in Cass County, then you guys aren't involved from everything from there on. That's going to be on somebody else's plate. Is that correct? Am I correct in saying that?
Yes. So we would not directly manage the development of the trail in Cass County in all likelihood. And we would not do, for example, maintenance or security on that as well, because that's out of our jurisdiction. But as part of this planning process and as part of the development of the project, we would work closely with, City of Greenwood, City of Pleasant Hill, Cass County, MoDOT, Mo State Parks.
Does Mark have anything to do with maybe federal money for something like this?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. So we would work with the Mid-America Regional Council, and we would have to sort of get some agreements in place and some understanding of who's managing what sections, and kind of approach it that way, which makes it a little more challenging, but it's also important to work closely. I mean, there are partners, there's stakeholders in the process. It's important to them from a economic development standpoint, from a community development standpoint. So there's really there's a good reason for everybody to be involved, and it's important that we have sort of convene this wider group around the project.
Yeah, no, it totally makes sense. I mean, even if you just look at like Crane Brewing, they're on brewing company that sits right there on Rock Island Trail. Like every time I go past that place, they're packed, and it's all people coming off the trail. When you think about businesses in Greenwood or Pleasant Hill or whatever the case is, there's good reason to want to have that foot traffic. I mean, there's good value in having that foot traffic. So it would benefit everyone to have that there for sure.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Cool. Well, I appreciate you guys explaining that. Hey y'all, thanks so much for watching that video. I hope you really enjoyed it. I appreciate your time. If you would, please give the video a like, comment, and subscribe.
And follow me on Facebook at goldengravelcycling.com. Subscribe on YouTube at goldengravelcycling.com. And if you'd like to have some more conversations about these podcasts and about these subjects, please follow my group on Facebook, the KC Cycling Podcast Group. We'll be talking over there more about the subjects that we discuss in these podcasts and anything that happens to crop up here. So hop on there, ask your questions, start the discussion, and let's keep the conversation going. Again, thanks so much for your time. God bless. Hope to talk to you soon.